After Treebeard witnessed the desolate panorama around Isengard, where trees were cut down to power Saruman's war machine, Treebeard paused for a moment, incredulous at Saruman's betrayal, and filled with hatred, he summoned the Ents with a mighty roar to advance against Isengard directly, even though this could mean their destruction. The last march of the Ents is about to begin. After Merry and Pippin fled the battle that became the ambush of Éomer and his men, which destroyed the company of Uruk-hai who had set out from Isengard in order to find the bearer of the ring, and kill the other members of the fellowship, but by mistake, had taken the wrong ones, Merry and Pippin respectively. Fleeing the heat of battle, Merry and Pippin managed to flee into the forests of Fangorn, where they met Treebeard, the oldest Ent in Middle-earth, who immediately doubted the identity of the hobbits, confusing them with orcs, whom he deeply hated. He decided to take them to a meeting with others of his species, to determine their fate, beginning a long walk through the ancient forest. Meanwhile, other events are unfolding. The battle for Helm's Deep is about to take place. Aragorn arrived, having been presumed dead in the warg attack. He is greeted with relief but brings bad news. He was able to spot an army of about 10,000 Uruk-hai that is on its way, eventually arriving at nightfall. As night falls, a battalion of elves led by Haldir arrives from Lothlorien, bearing word of alliance and aid from Elrond. While the battle is going on, the elves and archers fire hundreds of arrows at the Uruk marching towards them, eventually shooting their own arrows, and try to place ladders on the wall so they can overwhelm the defenders and make them retreat towards the keep. In Fangorn, Treebeard and the other Ents have decided to not have any involvement in the war, deciding rather to weather such things as they have always done. Despite this, Pippin manages to cleverly take Treebeard to the section of Fangorn that Saruman has recently decimated near Isengard. Treebeard is filled with rage at Saruman's betrayal and commands all the other Ents to seek vengeance. The Ents gather and embark upon the last march of the Ents, straight into Isengard itself. As the hobbits Merry and Pippin, who were present during the battle, later recounted to their friends, Ents are so strong that their punches can crumple iron like tinfoil, and they can tear apart solid rock like bread crusts. The Ents launched their attack on the walls. Attempts were made by the defenders to hinder them with arrows, but these only served to irritate the attackers further. And, in a matter of minutes, the gate and much of the southern wall was reduced to ruin. Meanwhile, as Theoden despairs in the besieged keep, Aragorn refuses to give in, and remembering Gandalf's words before he left, takes Theoden, Legolas and the remaining raiders on one last gallant ride, to attack the Uruk-hai army, in a desperate bid to allow the women and children to escape into the mountains. The riders storm out of the keep and cut their way through to the fortress gate. As the riders emerge into the mass of Uruks, the first rays of dawn fall down into the valley, and upon the eastern hill, Gandalf appears, accompanied by Éomer and his men. They rush down into the body of the stunned Uruks and rout them. The terrified Uruk-hai flee into Fangorn, where the Ents and their Huorn allies swiftly exact retribution. Back in Isengard, once the gate and walls had been reduced to rubble, a young Ent named Quickbeam on the Westron tongue spotted Saruman, and made for him, shouting the tree killer, for his people and all Fangorn forest in general had suffered from heavy deforestation to fuel the furnaces of Saruman. Other Ents followed him, but Saruman succeeded in escaping into the Tower of Orthanc. Once in the tower, he activated spouts and vents all over the plain, scorching many Ents who had entered the fortress. One Ent, Beachbone, was unlucky enough to be caught fully in one of the fiery blasts, and the death of this Ent by Saruman's fire caused the Ent host to go berserk. Merry and Pippin recounted the incident, saying that the enraged roars of the Ents were enough to crack the stones. They destroyed the buildings and machinery on the plain, but could do nothing to hurt the tower itself. At this point, the Ents took counsel and came up with a new plan of attack. By digging trenches and destroying Saruman's dam, the Ents were to divert the course of the river Isen itself. At midnight, the Ents succeeded in destroying the dam, and the river flooded the bowl of Isengard, submerging everything but Orthanc and filling in all the tunnels and holes where the machinery of war had been. The destruction of Isengard was complete, although Saruman was still untouched in the tower. Some men from Dunland surrendered and were allowed to leave. The sound defeat of Saruman's host at the Battle of the Hornburg and the destruction of his fortress rendered him incapable of causing the West any further military harm, although he still had the power of his persuasive and commanding voice, with which he could still do and did do harm. Had the Ents not destroyed Isengard, despite the destruction of Saruman's main army, he still could have withstood a siege with his few remaining forces behind Isengard's normally impregnable walls, biding his time until he could renew his strength. The hobbits Merry and Pippin, as the new door wardens, received Theoden, Aragorn, and Gandalf at the gates. Saruman was confronted but refused to beg for pardon, and he was kept under Treebeard's guard together with his footman, Grima Wormtongue. It was planned by Sauron that Isengard would be given to his ambassador, the Mouth of Sauron, a far more trustworthy servant than Saruman. The corrupted wizard nonetheless abandoned the stronghold after Saruman's downfall, playing off Treebeard's hatred of caging any living thing in order to manipulate him into letting him leave. Early in the Fourth Age, Isengard was restored and Treebeard replanted many trees. Orthanc again became a tower of the reunited kingdom of King Aragorn Elisar. Under the Ent dominion, the ring wall was torn down and the Ents planted the watchwood there, naming the new forest the Treegarth of Orthanc. Saruman's pits and caverns were filled, and the land was healed. The valley was now filled with trees, and a small lake was constructed near Orthanc. Nan Kirunor was given to the Ents by Aragorn, to do with as they wished, granted that they keep watch upon Orthanc and prevent anyone without permission from entering.